Hello everybody and welcome back to another Kings of War battle report. I'm Visibly Riley, and this week we see the return of the Elves versus Dwarves in a War of the Beard, everybody. This battle is fought at 2300 points and the scenario was Dominate. So first up, let's talk about my opponent's army. It opens with 3 regiments of Iron Guard, all of whom have Throwing Mastiffs. Then we have 2 regiments of Shield Breakers, both of whom have Throwing Mastiffs. 2 troops of Sharpshooters, 2 regiments of Rangers, a Greater Earth Elemental, a Dwarf Lord on Large Beast with the J-Boots, a Steel Juggernaut with the Aegis of the Elohi, 2 regiments of Mastiff Hunting Packs with, you guessed it, Throwing Mastiffs, a Stone Priest with Bane Chant 2, and a Dwarf ASB with a Loot of Insatiable Darkness. My thoughts on this list really boil down to, it is a real kick in the teeth. I like it a lot, and I think it's a good example of what a dwarf army is capable of, or an Imperial Dwarf army. And again, I'd actually really like the dwarf name to be changed to Imperial Dwarves. I think that's a lot more evocative. But anyway, I think all 3 of the dwarves, Imperial, Free, and Abyssal, are all solid armies in their own right. Some might be a little bit better than others, depending on the circumstance and, you know, just in a generalized sense for Abyssals. But I like that they all have unique flavors, and I think that this is a good example of what base dwarves can do, and it doesn't even have Brock Riders in it, which is an incredibly powerful unit, right? This just shows off, you know, dwarves are good too, just base Imperial dwarves. It's one of those lists that really showcase the idea of, yeah, it has 16 units. That's an insane amount, and really showing that it's not really the unit strength. 28's pretty good, but it's about the number of scoring units. So this has 14 scoring units in it, all of which are relatively tough. They are slow, but still, if it's trying to take an area, it's just really good at it. Throwing Mastiffs are an excellent upgrade. I'm glad my opponent has really cottoned onto it, or I guess not so glad, considering I played a game earlier in the week with them against this dwarf list with my Ratkin, and that battle will not be appearing on the channel, not just because I got completely smoked, I got tabled by turn 4, but also just because I had a lot of models in it that are not really the models. So it's a bunch of weird random nonsense. So, you know, this channel is not exactly known for putting out fully painted armies or whatever, just because I don't think it's that important for playtesting, but there is a line. So I'm gonna draw it there and just replay this game, right? Or replay against this dwarf list for this battle report here. So anyway, I like this army a lot. I think that there are small changes you could make, but they're style changes, right? Like the Stone Priest with Bane Chant 2, you could drop that because the Greater Earth Elemental doesn't really need to have the support of a Stone Priest, but it's fine to have it, right? Obviously, the Bane Chant 2 is not for the Greater Earth Elemental, but it's a good spell for everywhere else. Surge is always good, and it inspires. So, like, I just, you know, it's just a good list. So I guess that's it. Let's move on to the Elves. So here's my Elf army. It opens with a horde of Kindred Tall Spears with the Hammer of Measured Force. Then we have 2 regiments of Palace Guard, one of whom has the Mace of Crushing. Then we have a regiment of Stormwind Cab with the Chant of Hate, 3 troops of Kindred Archers, a horde of Draken Riders with the Brew of Strength, 2 regiments of Silver Breeze Cav, an Elven King with the Boots of the 7 Leagues, Saber-Toothed Hunting Cat, Shardblade, and Horse, Argus Rodinar, and then finally 2 Elven Archmages, both of whom have Lightning Bolt 5, and then one also has a Horse and the Boomstick to bring it up to Lightning Bolt 8. So my thoughts on this army are, it's kind of a revision of what I've been playing with the Palace Guard Horde and what I've been using with Elves, both in the previous edition in version 2 and in version 3. One of my close friends sent me a list the other day, and it really sparked my interest. It's not really too close to what I built here, right? Like there's double Draken, there's no archers, there's battle cats. I mean, but I like the idea of putting in, it was also like 300 more points, but I like the idea of putting the Silver Breeze in, and I like this kit on the Elven King, because I like the King, and putting the Boots of 7 Leagues on it to get one of those scouting assassins that I like so much, right? This one, it scouts 18 inches forward, and then it's height 3 and then a 2+ to hit, you know, duelist with Crush 1. So I'm really into it. I think that's a fun piece to field, even if it's a little expensive. As for the specifics that I did in this list, I decided in the end I couldn't afford to have a Palace Guard Horde, and if I was going to, I really like them with the Brew of Strength. So every time I do that, I'm like, I'm not sure I want to run the Draken Horde then, if I'm going to run a Palace Guard Horde, or even the Tall Spear Horde with the Brew of Strength is also really good. But if I'm going to run Drakens, I want them to have the Brew. So in the end, I swapped it out to having a Tall Spear Horde with the Hammer of Measure Force, which also informed how much Bane Chant I was going to have in the list, which is obviously 0. Lastly, to speak on that for one brief second longer, the Tall Spear Horde is a really interesting unit, as it feels differently in each elf army, right? So like I really like the Brew of Strength on it in my Twilight Kin, but that's because I don't have Drakens, right? I'm never gonna put the Brew on them, so you know, it can go on here and it's a great pick. But in Elves, I like to field my Elves with at least one horde of Drakens, and they're probably gonna have the Brew, so Hammer of Measured Force comes out to play. So anyway, I think that's interesting. Lastly, I brought Argus Rodinar. It's not exactly a popular pick, and I can see why, but honestly, I just needed the Inspire. So the idea was Argus counts as 2 Inspire for everything except for the first turn if I don't win the roll-off. So I'll have to be a little bit more conservative with some of my troops to hide them a bit better, or just hope my opponent doesn't have any shooting, which obviously this army does. But yeah, I like the idea of Argus just following around my core of Palace Guard and Tall Spears, and then casting the Inspire onto one of my far-reaching units like the Silver Breeze or the Stormwind, who will probably be traveling together. And then later in the game, if the Elven King survives, I can circle back around and give Inspire that way. So that's the idea. And of course, Archmages are excellent. They're just such a good unit. Even an Archmage with just Lightning Bolt 5 running around the table is pretty good. So that's the plan. It is a little low on scoring units, again, because I have 4 individuals in a 14-unit army, so I'll have to be doing some pretty heavy killing here. So let's move on to the scenario with Dominate. Dominate is pretty simple. You just add up the unit strength of all units that have the majority of their footprint within 12 inches of the center of the playing area, so a radius of 12 inches, and then that's the number of victory points you have. Highest victory points wins. This is one of those scenarios where I go like, it's a little basic because it scores at the end of the game. It's just one area. I think it would be a lot better with 2 zones, a little bit offset, and then scoring dynamically. Scoring every turn would be interesting. You could even have an objective in the center of the field doing something, right? So you're scoring that as well. But again, I've harped enough on dynamic scoring. This one does have the added benefit of being good for new players or maybe returning players, and not just being invade or kill for new players. So you can build a small set of like very simple scenarios to sort of reintroduce them to the concept of scoring in Kings of War. So it does have that going for it, but I'd like a change. Moving forward, here we see the big red circle. That is the approximate area of the Dominate circle. It is a little bit bigger on the sides because again this table tapers a little bit, but this is about right, so that gives you an idea. It is King of the Hill, I guess. But anyway, let's go into the terrain. First off, we have 2 height 9 forests. You can see I brought the trees this time. They're still not done, but I at least got them onto their bases. Then we move on to the 2 height 0 or height flat pieces of terrain. We have 1 height 3 hill. I actually have almost finished one of the hills. The problem, I would have had it done for this game, but it's just been so wet up here while I've been painting. And it's not that I use rattle cans, but just ambient temperature makes it so stuff like Sculptamold doesn't dry particularly well or quickly, right? So I had to wait again, and unfortunately, Hank will have to do without Bobby today. So moving forward, we have a bunch of height 2 obstacles. Not as many as I generally run on the table, but you know, the variety is the spice of life. Bah. Tongue-tied. Bah! Then we have 2 obstacles. One is height 7, which is the bell tower over here, and then we have a height 5 one down here. So again, just giving some interest in the heights. It's not going to matter too much just because there's only one Titan on the table that could see over this, and I win the roll-off for his table side, so I chose this one. Or maybe my opponent did and won that one. Anyway, the point being, this being height 5 is not terribly relevant, but it is a bit more interesting. So with that, we'll go into deployment. So first off, with the dwarves starting on their left side, we have 1 regiment of rangers, followed by 2 troops of sharpshooters over here. These sharpshooters, and then behind them, the first mastiff hunting pack with, of course, the throwing mastiffs, the dogs that shoot bees in their mouths. Then to the right of that, we have the Dwarven King on large beasts with the J-Boots. Behind it, we have the Shieldbreaker Regiment with the Throwing Mastiff. In the front, we have the Iron Guard Regiment with, again, the Throwing Mastiff. Then we have the Dwarf ASB with the Loot, and the Mastiff Hunting Pack back here, the second one with the Throwing Mastiff. And this is the checkerboard idea, right? So this unit and this unit are def 6. They can run forward, while these guys are relatively protected. They have cover, and you could always, pull these together if you're worried about the amount of range attacks that'll go into the def 4 unit. But really, it's just because this unit can take a charge. This unit, make sure that it's an inch behind them, right? So these guys can disengage and then crab walk away, and then these guys can just charge in. So that's sort of how the army works. And off here to the right of that, we have, again, the Massive Hunting Pack. I guess they labeled it twice. Then we have the Iron Guard Regiment, both of whom have Throwing Mastiffs, the Steel Juggernaut with the Aegis, and behind them, the Shield Breaker with the Throwing Mastiff. So again, this checkerboard style. Yep, it's pretty solid. The only thing I've noticed so far is the distribution of Inspiring is a little weird. And off here to the right of it, we have the Ranger Regiment. This is after they've scouted, so they scouted over here to get this obstacle, which is pretty solid. I've said that a lot, but this really enables them to shoot downfield while still having cover from most things. Then we have the Stone Priests cowering behind the Greater Earth Elemental. I really like this this 3D printout of those. I can't remember what they were called, but they were out in Nagrand in the Burning Crusade. So whatever those big elementals were called. Really cool. And over here we have the Elf deployment versus the Greater Earth Elemental. I decided to deploy 1 Archer troop. I forgot to label it, but that is the Archmage with Lightning Bolt 5 and nothing. And finally the Archmage on horse with Lightning Bolt 5 and a boomstick. Just all hanging out over here, ready to take down these Earth Elementals for sure. To the right of that, we have my Kindred Archer troop screening the Palace Guard Regiment with the Mace of Crushing. Generally, I put my screens behind, but Palace Guard, I just don't want to eat that small arms fire that this army is capable of, so that's how I deployed. Then we have the Horde of Tall Spears with the Hammer of Measured Force just staring right down the center of the table. Behind them is Argus Rodinar. To the right of that, we have the 2nd Palace Guard Regiment with nothing, then the 2nd Kindred Archer Troop. To the right of that, we have the Stormwind Regiment with the Chant of Hate. And off here on its own, in my 3rd battle group here, I guess, we have the Silver Breeze Regiment, and the Draken Rider Horde with the Brew of Strength. So there's one more thing, which is, of course, the Elven King with the horse shard blade, and blah, 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 all that stuff. So I've scouted forward. This pink die represents how far my opponent can throw dogs at me. So the Massive Hunting Pack is speed 6 and then can throw 12, so I'm just barely out of 18 inches from it, so I can't get dogs thrown at me. I don't care if my opponent wants to shoot at me. They're -2 minimum, so meh. And that's going to be it. So with that, we go into turn 1. So turn 1 ends up going to the Elves. Always nice when it's a ranged-on-ranged matchup, or at least when you have a decent amount of range on both sides. So I just advanced the line forward. These Silver Breeze go into the woods, so they're going to be shooting out of it. So -1, I'm going to try to target these Rangers down, because these Silver Breeze, when they move, I keep my leader point outside of this forest template. So when I'm shooting, I don't take the -1 for cover. So tricksy Hobbit trick. Then we have the Draken Riders hiding back here. I put my leader point into the forest so I can see through it, but again, Draken Riders, I really believe you want to keep them back for most of the game and just use them when you need them, obviously. Then I move my other horses forward. I do outspeed most of this stuff. I mean, all of it, because it's dwarves, but I not only can outcharge them, but my charge distance is farther than their ability to throw dogs at me, which is only 16 while I charge 18. So that's the plan, is I'm just sitting outside of their dog throwing range and going, yeah, I don't throw dogs at me just yet. I'm going to try to take some of these units out before I get dogs thrown at me, so they can't just pile on. The rest of the army just advances as it can, so I hide these ones a little bit. The Palace Guard, I don't need them to go too far forward. They go as fast as they can, but or not as fast as they can, but as fast as I want. Then these guys take the hill, so I've touched it with my leader point so I can see over again. and I'm still out of the ability to throw dogs at me, so I feel good about that. These guys just turn because I might need a little bit of range support. I mean, this is not a lot. They only have 7 shots normally, and now they're on 7, so it's going to be 3 shots on 6s with Elite. But I have set up quite a bit to fire into the flank of these Rangers. So I have 7 shots on 6s, and then I have Lightning Bolt 13. 13 to fire into the flank here. And it might look like I've given cover to the Rangers from my archers, but I have not. I assure you, I can still see the majority of that flank without crossing this unit, and my leader point is beyond it. So I'm just giving myself cover in case they want to move, so on and so forth. So that's the plan. Let's see how it all pans out. So starting with the shooting from the Silver Breeze. Oh, you can also see I put my king back here. That's just to inspire these guys and stay out of trouble. I actually made a mistake, which is I think my king should be a little bit farther this way, and maybe I could have adjusted the Dragon Riders. But because then it lets me do the sneaky pivot trick. I'm not sure if that still works in 3rd edition. I know they took it out for half of the terrain in 2nd, but anyway, I don't do it anyway. So I hide over here just to give inspiring for right now. So we're gonna fire off all of our bows, and we just delete that Ranger unit. I roll insanely hot there. The first unit, I think, like you can see back there, I did 13 wounds. So that is 14 shots on 4s and 4s with Elite, and then 14 shots on 5s and 4s with Elite. Did 13, feels good. Got them out of there. And then over here, all of this shoots into the other Rangers, and I only do 7, but I do get a waiver. Actually, this is wrong. I didn't do 13, I did 7. I remember, because I did 7 on both. But I just rolled hot here. Anyway, on the break, because it's a 9. But my opponent didn't put the Inspire over there, so it's just 1 roll on a 9, so pop them. These ones, I get a waiver, so I'm also okay with that, because Dwarf Rangers are not headstrong. Not that they could charge anything anyway, but a waiver is really good here. So we're going to see the end of turn shot. You can see I have drawn first blood, and I'm just standing in a line staring at dwarves and going, come at me. So with dwarf turn 1, they do just that. Most of the dwarves run, obviously not the ranged dwarves, but the rest of it does. They're not particularly afraid of being in my charge range. They do have this nice checkerboard going here. I think the idea here is just to block off all the flanks that they can. So like my Draken Riders are in the flank of the Shield Guard? Iron Guard. I remember what they're called. Iron Guard here, but I can't land due to the Shield Breakers and the Dwarf King right there. And so on and so forth down the line. So it's making it so I have to go for front charges if I want them. And then limiting the sheer number of front charges I can get. These guys do not touch the hill, so I can't see them with anything that isn't the... these guys here. Actually, in the end, when I move these archers out of the way, I have the slimmest line of sight to them from this palace guard, but we didn't see it at the time. So anyway, that's that. And then the big old rock just moves forward. Yeah, I mean, it's moving forward towards my line right here. It wants to be moving forward, obviously. It's a waste of time to not, but it has moved within 12 of my archers, which I think is a mistake. It could just be slightly outside of it, and I think just be as effective because of that surge back there anyway. So anyway, that's what my opponent goes for, and let's move into shooting. So we start with both of these rifles. I don't know if the dogs... I actually don't know if the dogs shoot right now. They probably do. But anyway, both the rifles fire into my Stormwind Cab. One does not have cover, the other does. They only managed 2 wounds, so pretty cool there. And here is the end of turn shot, because there's no combat, obviously. I don't think my opponent did shoot with these dogs, probably because I'm out of range, or they set them up out of range, or they missed. Any of those things happened. Anyway, I don't think the dogs worked or weren't shot. Did 2 wounds to these knights. They're not even wavered, so that's pretty good. I did forget to mention, I put Argus's mark over here on this on this wizard, on the Archmage, just to make sure that I have the inspired bubble over here as well. So that's all inspired, that's all inspired, that's all inspired. So I have an entirely inspired elf army. I did it, guys. With that, we move on to turn 2. So turn 2 for the elves, we're going to get into the fight. I know I generally say don't get into the fight for turn 2, but in a scenario like Dominate where you need to be taking that center, yeah, that's probably a good idea. Plus, there are some charges I actually want to take here. First off, I have my Elven King, my Elven King, charge into these dogs. It is a hindered charge because I'm charging through the woods, but honestly, I'm just looking to do a wound to them, turn off their ability to throw dogs at me, and then, killing them would be great, but just jamming this whole area up because these guys could charge into my Silver Breeze, which is not great for them to do, but turning off my shooting sure is good. So I'm just trying to trap these guys over here while I can deal with some other stuff with the Silver Breeze this turn, which is I'm going to try to fire into these shield breakers because I can get both units into their flank. Both my leader points are obviously outside of terrain, and individuals do not count for line of sight purposes, so I'm just going to fire everything into the flank and try to delete another Def 4 unit this turn. The rest of the left flank, I moved the dragons fully into the forest now just because I don't care about this. With the rangers gone, the real threats are all gone, and the dogs now locked in with my king. These guys are not a threat for for combat. I mean, they are a threat in terms of they could shoot and kill me, but I have a lot of stuff that I can deal with them with. So these dragons are turning more into the center, facing towards the actual objective of the game, which is about here. Or no, I actually think it's about there. There's a token right there. So anyway, it's about there. And just looking to get some flanks later in the game. Or, I mean, it's probably not going to be a flank, but go for another front, I guess. Threaten. Then I send the Stormwind Cav into the front of the Dwarven King. I'm not expecting too much here. I've got 16 attacks on 3s and 4s with Elite and Vicious, so getting some wounds would be great. But the bigger thing is that I'm protected. My flank is protected by these archers that I also charge in with. These guys are in the flank, so they cannot actually charge me because it's a corner-to-corner charge because my opponent kept a perfect frontage. And yeah, I just want to get this damage in while I can because I don't think the Dwarven King can take me in a fight, or at least not kill me. And then I don't think the shield breakers will be able to push in because they could, but these guys would have to move over here and so on and so forth. So it really depends on how the combat goes. And even if they do, I have a lot of damage over here still ready to go. So that's the plan. Because if they're going to dodge these Palace Guard, then these are going to go for a flank, or these, right? So that's the idea. Just get some damage in and not die. Then I send the Tall Spears into a unit or a regiment of Iron Guard because, well, I have 30 attacks on 4s and 4s, period, with Elite, so, pretty good. Just going to try to wipe out a unit right here. They are 15-17, so I do like 8-ish wounds on average, so probably not the best odds to wipe them out, but I can get some real damage on them, which is all I really want. And I don't think my opponent can take me in a fight here because these archers have both charged, blocking these guys up. Oh, it was the archers that could see. Okay, yeah, so these guys can't see, but the archers that were over here could see. Okay. Yeah, since they're currently jammed up right here, again, this is, when we're talking about chaff, there's a common misconception because of how we use the word chaff. Some people mean it as a tar pit. Some people mean that they're jamming pieces. So it's important to try to declare what you're actually talking about when you say chaff. So this is a chaff unit that I'm using to jam this unit. So I'm using it to trap them, right? I don't expect this unit or my archers to hold up against anything, which some things do. For example, when people say thick chaff, right? They're really hoping that they will be able to hold for a turn or so, right? Because, well, they're thick. They're able to tarp it. These guys, not so much tarpity. Although they can tarp it against stuff like these dogs, because they're Def 4 and 10-12, so they have better stats than you might think. Anyway, I digress. Let's talk about the right, because again, yeah, this is a big mistake, I think, by my opponent, which was getting within 12 of my archers so I can do this charge, and again, trap this unit. So all my archers are doing exactly what I brought them to do, which is trap on turn 2 or on whatever turn I charge on. And then I end up layering my wizards because, again, individuals don't care about nothing cares about individuals for line of sight. So when I fire my lightning bolt into these rangers, I've already drawn that I can see the flank and see the majority of the flank from where this wizard is. So the other one is also good. I had to measure it, but it's about right? So they're going to fire that Lightning Bolt 13 again into these Rangers who are already at 7 wounds, so looking to just wipe them out real quick. Lastly, Argus right here is throwing out the Inspire to these units. These archers are not inspired, but meh, who cares? And then I slap my mark onto the Palace Guard because I want to inspire these archers, I guess. I think I actually just wanted these Palace Guard inspired. So yeah, this is all inspired as well. Or maybe Argus was too far to inspire that. Doesn't matter. That's where I put it. The Draken Riders are actually not inspired right now, but I don't think that's going to be an issue. It's at best 2 units of sharpshooters firing at me while I have cover, so meh. And that's going to be it. Let's go into shooting. So first off, I guess we're just showing off this charge. Yep, I guess we're just going to show off the charges that I talked about. So we've got all of these going in here, and here's the end of shoot, or actually end of turn, which is first off with the shooting. These guys fire off into these rangers. Yeah, they obliterate that unit. Lightning bolt go. Actually, the boomstick is not doing too well, but the other one with the 5-shot is just hitting 5 out of 5 every time. So, you know, it all balances out, I guess. With all of my combats with the archers, it's actually pretty funny. All 3 of the archer troops do 1 wound, and they were all fighting def 6 units. So I'm like, you know, archers, you do you. Which is great on these units because they have dogs. Specifically this one, because again, as I said before, these guys could combo, but then these guys wouldn't be able to, nothing would be fighting these archers. So if they had gone for that backup and fight, they would have to be doing it with dogs. So knocking the dog off that makes it so these archers are still a viable threat, which makes it limited for my opponent. I do fire all of these short bows into my opponent's hammers. I only get a waiver there. I was hoping to get a kill, but it's a tall order, right? that's 28 shots on 4s and 4s with elite, but still, that's not the best, you know, wounding. That's like 7 to 8 wounds. I did 8 wounds, so I even hit the high end of that average, and I got a waiver in the end, so I'm okay with that. Dwarven, you know, dwarves are obviously headstrong, so maybe that won't do too much, but still pretty good. And then the Elven King. I'm gonna keep calling this a Dwarven King. Apparently, actually, real quick, I had a big old shard blade on this, but the box I was holding these models in, I just crumpled that entire sword. So I just ripped the arm off, and I'll have to do it again if I want to use these. So anyway, I charge into the dogs. I do 4 wounds to them, but unlike all the other swarms, the Dwarven swarms are 11-13, so really decent nerve. And I don't manage a kill, nor do I manage a waiver. But again, meh, dogs. I am, of course, mighty, but these guys are also disordered, so, you know, they're not able to go through me anyway. So that's going to be the end of turn shot, so let's go into turn 2 dwarves. So turn 2 dwarves looks as you might expect it. First off, on the left, we've got the hounds going into my king. I mean, they don't really have anything else to do, so fair enough. The shield breakers, of course, they pass their headstrong and turn to fight me. I did forget to mention that I did 5 wounds, I think, to the Dwarven King on Large Beast with my cab. So that's, you know, I'm really rolling. I'm not rolling super hot, but I am rolling hot in the way of I'm not missing anything, right? I'm hitting these averages, and then I'm rolling really hot on my nerves. So anyway, I do get 5 wounds there. These guys turn around to face my left flank. Not sure how helpful that'll be because, again, I can just shoot at them in their def 4. So we'll see, though. They are helping protect some of this fight, I want to say, but I'm not exactly sure how. The Dwarven King here just goes into the cav, looking to get a kill, maybe a waiver, doesn't really matter. These guys go into the archers, again, looking for a kill there. But this Iron Guard, because the Banechant is over here on the top. Oh, I guess the Banechant's there too. Never mind, I was about to say, like, the Banechant's so far away, the archer's def 4 might matter, but again, the Banechant isn't far away. So then we have the dogs here moving forward to chaff up my unit or my horde of tall spears. And again, this is a jamming maneuver. They're not expecting to live. They're just hoping to hold me up for a turn. And they are depth 3, so I'm only wounding them on 4s due to my hammer. So good use there. And then we've got 2 throwing massives going into them just to get some pip damage going. I don't have any heal. We have the archers here. My opponent sends the Iron Guard in there, and then also sends the Steel Juggernaut, deciding that the shooting isn't worth too much, and that these tall spears, if they're able to charge the Juggernaut, they can just one round it. So it's better to just be over here, away from them. And you could even overrun past them if you wanted, or just staying over here. They can't charge past these dogs anyway because of the 1-inch gap and this being a horde. So anyway, and then off here on the right, yeah, the Creator Earth Elemental's like, what did you just say? And charges into me. It's got its 1 wound, so, you know, we did it, archers. So with that, we go into shooting. In the shooting phase, we've got really just the sharpshooters now, firing into my unit of Silver Breeze. They managed 6 wounds, which is pretty solid considering I have cover. So that is 10 shots on 5s and 2s, managing 6 wounds. Solid. But doesn't get a waiver, so that's unfortunate for my opponent. I'm able to do what I want with my horses yet again. And over here we throw both the dogs, so that is 12 shots between them on 4s, and then it'll be on 3s. It's on my tall spears, and yeah, it gets 5 wounds, and of course boxcars me, so I'm like, cool, I guess I'll just sit here then. So yeah, it's pretty funny. I would prefer my tall spears to not be wavered right now, and again, showing off, you know, why you want to be fearless, but yeah, so I've got a wavered unit right here. It's actually pretty bad if we go from right to left. The archers here are dead, the archers here are dead. That's kind of whatever. But then this big boxcar and then this waver. My opponent only does 1 wound to these archers and then just rolls, only needed a 9, but got a 10. So wavered these archers, which is also bad, just because I might be able to do something where I walk these guys back 3, I push these guys back an inch and walk this way and get these Palace Guard in there, but now it is not possible due to this waiver. Honestly, I'd rather be dead, but, you know, waiver is also bad. So anyway, that is the end. We've got my horses taking, I think, 3 wounds from the dwarf on Large Beast, getting a disorder, but not a waiver. So I do have a possible countercharge there, but without any thunderous charge, it's, you know, 3s and 6s. Not the best. So, and then the dogs over here, they manage 2 wounds on the brave elven king, who's like, fuck these dogs. And we move into turn 3. So turn 3 starts with, let's start on the left. So first off, I send this unit of Silver Breeze, which we're not in the train, into these dogs because it's unhindered. I'm just looking to kill them off right now. While these Silver Breeze, I decide that I can probably take these guys out, right? They're at 8 wounds. I can do it. But the big thing being, I back up with my Silver Breeze Cav. So I disengage 1, or not Silver Breeze, Stormwind Cav. So I disengage 1, and then I back up 4.5 inches. I actually don't back up that far. I back up with enough to make it so my Draken Riders can land. So they just charge out of the woods. They don't care because they're not landing in the woods. And now I have a unit that can finish off this Dwarf King. So that was my idea from the beginning, which is I can just get some pip damage in here. I probably won't die on the countercharge. I run away, and then the Dragons get an easy kill. So these guys facing kind of the wrong way right now. But anyway, the Draken Riders, yeah, that's 18 attacks on 3s and 3s with Elite. So, and this is already at 5 wounds, so it's essentially a 10-12. So the archers just sit there. They remain engaged because why not? I don't want to cede any distance, so there's no reason to back up. My Elven King, again, says, fuck these dogs. Disengages 1, individuals this way, can see over these dwarves, can see the ASB and goes, yes, sir, and goes in there. So that'll be 10 attacks on 2s and 4s because dwarven ASBs are, of course, defense 5. But yeah, just going for my first target here. And I'm way behind the lines here. Nothing can see me. The Steel Juggernaut might look like it's facing me, but it's not. It's facing this way. So nothing can see me back here. I'm not afraid. These guys don't have dogs to throw at me. So I'll just sit back here. And I back up with my spearmen. That is because originally my opponent had measured this out with the shield breakers and moved them just far enough so they crab walked, but they could have walked forward a bit and ended up like this maybe, and decided that I couldn't get out of range if I charged into these dogs, which admittedly I was going to do. So if I charged the dogs with the spear horde with the tall spears, even if I rolled a 3 on my disengage, I wouldn't be able to get out of the charge range. But since I was wavered with that boxcar, I just back up 3 instead, and that takes me far enough away to not be charged here. So it's not possible for them to charge into the tall spears, and I'm pretty okay with that. I take my Palace Guard on the hill, and I charge into these guys here. I don't really want to do that, but I have an exposed flank on the tall spears, and I just had to kind of bite the bullet and Hope it works out. Again, I don't have any Bane chant, so you know I've got 12 attacks on 3s and 5s with Elite, so I don't expect too much of that. This has an easy flank charge. It would have been nice to see my archers hold for one more turn, just because you know it's a 12 attacks on 4s and 2s, so I could pretty easily hold. Right, it's a 7. It's a 7 to kill me. Roll a 6, but yeah, I wasn't counting on it, but it would have been nice. So they're gonna just stare down this flank and accept their fate. I move one of my wizards onto the hill with its leader point. The other one obviously can't go that far. So it literally, did it? No, it only went 5 or 6 because it can be out of the total charge distance of this, and then can also support with this if I want. The only thing I can see is the Greater Earth Elemental, which kind of sucks with my Lightning Bolt here. But yeah, takes what you can get. And that's going to be that. Argus here is just positioned to inspire. My Inspire does go out to the Draken Riders right there. I'm not sure what I slapped my Argus mark onto. It's probably these guys, actually, now that I think about it, because get that Inspire bubble over there. So anyway, that's going to be it. Let's go into the shooting. So yeah, just showing off that mark. I guess I inspired the ones that are in combat. And over here, the King charging in there. And at the end of the combat for the Draken Riders, actually, let's talk about these combats. First off, I easily kill off these dogs. They already had 4 wounds on them, and again, I have 14 attacks on 4s and 3s, so, you know, not expecting too much. But I walk right through them and then pivot to make sure that these guys are in my front. Over here with the Elven King, I do pretty well. I think I do 4 or 5 wounds to the ASB. I think they are a 10-12, so I don't manage a kill, but I did manage to turn off the loot for a turn and get into this backfield, so I'm okay with all of that. Over here, the Draken Riders, yeah, they punch right through that Lord. I do a pretty insane number of wounds. I mean, I do an average number of wounds, but I didn't need to do that high, and I just pop right through it. Right here, the Palace Guard, did I hit? Yeah, I did 1 wound. So at least I turned off their dogs again? No, the archers did that 1 wound. Did I do 0? Are we worse than archers? Maybe. But, you know, we're just a chaff unit right now. It's fine. And here is the end of turn shot. It looks like I did manage some wounds on these guys. It looks like I managed quite a few, actually. It looks like they're at 5 wounds. Pretty good. This one right here, again, fires its Lightning Bolt 5 with Elite. I hit with all 5, and then I managed 3 wounds onto the Greater Earth Elemental, so it's at 4 wounds. My opponent's not free dwarf, so it can't heal it with that Stone Priest, so I'm pretty cool with this. I do fire off a Lightning Bolt here. I fired at these dogs. I do 2 wounds. I don't get a waiver. It wasn't too likely to get one. These guys fired into the hammers, or not hammers, shield breakers, and I managed 3 wounds, which is not the best, but I only need a 5 twice to kill them, and I nail it, kill them off. As you can see, I killed the dogs, and that is my final positioning. So let's talk about Dwarf turn 3. So Dwarf turn 3, things are looking a little bit dire, so they've got some weird moves to make. First off, we've got the shield breakers. These are not those. These are sharpshooters going into my regiment of Silver Breeze to make sure that they are trapped for the turn, I guess. And then these guys can just shoot into here, try to finish that unit off. I have the Dwarf ASB just moves a little bit just to make it so if this guy charges into it, it's not going to overrun into anything, because before I would have overrun into this combat, right? Like this one here where the archers are just sitting here, I would have been able to overrun into there. I'm not sure I would have, but I could have. We have the the hammers, or not the hammers, shield breakers. I'm going to call them shield breakers forever. So the shield breakers here get into the flank of my archers. That's just to, I think, get them down here. I'm not exactly sure what my opponent was going for. I probably would have just held them back because they have the dogs deciding to charge into my my tall spears. So they're protected from all that stuff, but I have the Palace Guard over here, right? And these archers are probably dead. And if they're not, who cares? So I'm not exactly sure about this, but maybe it was just looking at the Draken Riders staring down the entire flank of the army and going like, yeah, okay, something should be over there. So anyway, we have the Steel Juggernaut just moving onto the hill so it can fire its gun in relative protection, because it's protected from the Drakens right now due to these 2 units. Then over here, yeah, the Greater Earth Elemental and the Iron Guard decide to take down that unit of Palace Guard. Should be pretty simple for them. And then this little guy just going for a Bane Chant, I guess. I don't think it's necessary, but sure, why not? And with the shooting, we have 1 unit firing this turn, and well, no, we have 2 units, I guess. Both fire into my into my unit of Silver Breeze, and lightning does not strike twice. These guys in the woods are perfectly fine. So no wounds, no nerve check. Whew, lucky. And here's the end of turn shot. As you might expect, the archers are killed. Over here, this is actually this is a wavered token. You might be like, wow, they wavered you? No, I messed up. That's supposed to be a disordered token. But yeah, these guys do 1 or 2 wounds to me and get a distorter, so at least they got that going for them. You can see back here, yeah, the archers are gone. These guys do not get box card again, so they're fine. And the Palace Guard are melted over here. But things are still not looking particularly great for the dwarves. If the elves can manage to finish this stuff off, these guys could take down my unit of tall spears, but again, who cares? And I look at this and I'm like, well, didn't you just open yourself to being charged by Palace Guard? This is def 4 unit. So I don't quite get it. But anyway, maybe there was a play I don't see or forgot about. And we move into turn 4. So elf turn 4 looks a bit like this. It's a doozy. First off, the Draken Riders, which were over here, could actually see, because I'm height 4, these dwarves over here, and I fly all the way over here. I fit my unit perfectly. There's actually another base under it just to show that it could fit. So I charge into this unit of Iron Guard with 5 wounds on them. That's the 3 right there. Yeah. So yeah, they already had 5 wounds on them. So that we're going for an easy kill there, I hope, with 18 attacks on 3s and 3s with elite. The tall spears go into the dogs, going for a kill there. These guys go into, again, those shield breakers because they are not the hardest thing for Palace Guard to take down, or at least waver. But I mean, if they headstrong, if they could just kill the Palace Guard, I'm not sure I care about that. I take the counter charge here into the sharpshooters. And then I take a flank into this unit of Iron Guard because for a second I kind of forgot they were Iron Guard. You ever have one of those games where you're like, I know that's a def 6 unit, that's a def 6 unit, and then you go like, okay, my turn. And then you charge it and you go like, how did I forget that was def 6? So anyway, it's nothing to do with my opponent. The models are the actual models even, and I'm like, oh, what def are they? So I send these guys into the flank here. That is a terrible charge because it's hindered, right? So it's on 28 attacks on 5s and 6s. I would have been better off shooting because I send these guys into the front. They are, I think this unit has 1 wound on it, but again, because I got to save the cav using my Draken Riders, I get a second go at 16 attacks on 3s and 4s with elite and vicious. So we're gonna go for that. I thought about sending the king in, and I think that's why I ended up sending this in to see if I could do 1 or 2 damage, but that was definitely not calculating def 6, but maybe the 1 or 2 will help. Who knows? And the king just goes, yeah, I'll just finish off this ASB. That way there's no Inspire over here, right? There's the Steel Juggernaut, but it doesn't reach to this unit. It only reaches to this. So I can pop an Inspire real quick here, and I would like that. So with that out of the way, let's get into the shooting. So we have, I guess we're just going to show off some combats here. Yeah, here it is. I send both these units in. The Cav here plus the Silver Breeze. I don't think the Silver Breeze do anything, but I get these guys up to 9 wounds, and of course I double one it. So getting that hot double one out of the way though, right? Rest of the game's been so good. Who cares? And over here, I do 0 wounds. I only hit 2 times on these shield breakers, so I'm probably doomed. But that's fine. That's fine too. And over here, yeah, the big combat being the Draken Riders. Yeah, we wipe those guys out and turn to face the Greater Earth Elemental. I'm not exactly. I mean, the Greater Earth Elemental is such a dangerous beast. I have, it doesn't look like it here, but I've kept parallel here just to make sure that there is no ability to surge shenanigan me because this is not nimble. So it'll charge in there, but still it has 12 attacks on 4s and 2s, right? And I'm at 15-17, so it's not completely outside reality for that to just one-shot me or at least get a waiver and 2-shot me. And there's plenty of turns left in the game to do it. And here's the end of turn shot. So first off, it looks like no, I did 2 damage to them. So I did hit. I hit twice. It looks like, but I didn't do too much. I did manage to kill off these dogs. This 10 spot for the wounds was on the dogs. I much prefer, again, dials are much better. I know Dan Miner from Miner Creations, Miner, sells these dials. I really recommend them. They're amazing. Get them if you can. So anyway, this was on the dogs, so they are dead. But the rest of it is, as you can see, I didn't even... Did I get a waiver on these guys? It looks like I did. I did 2 wounds to them, but they are headstrong, so we'll see if they can take on anyone or no one. And with all my shooting, I fired all my lightning bolt into this stone priest because I had clear line of sight with at least... No, I have with both of them. So I do 4 wounds. I get a waiver. Again, it is... able to shake that, but it will be disordered because headstrong only shake. It's not as good as Indomitable Will, which again, I think a lot of people are sleeping on how good Kingdoms of Men are. Like, Kingdoms of Men are a pretty solid army, and Indomitable Will is straight up broken. And I don't mean broken as necessarily a pejorative. It's just amazing because for 10 points, not only do you get super headstrong, it's super in every way because headstrong specifically states that you drop waiver but keep disordered, so you become disordered instead because waiver grants disorder. But Indomitable Will doesn't have that language, so when you pop Indomitable Will on a unit like this, there's no disorder either. They can still cast, they can shoot, they can do whatever they want. They don't lose their TC. An amazing upgrade. Anyway, that aside, that guy is not going to be particularly helpful this turn because of it, though. So we move into Dwarf turn 4. So on Dwarf turn 4, we have these guys over here actually fail their headstrong, so I got one. Yes, always look for one of those in the game. You'd be like, you're going to fail one of these headstrongs. It's going to feel great. For me, not for the dwarves. So they fail their headstrong and stare at me. Everyone else passes, but we have a flank charge from these guys. They're like, I saw what you did. And we're like, yeah, we could do that. So I think that's, 10 attacks on 6s and 4s? Go for it, guys. I do have 6 wounds on me, so it's not the worst idea. These guys then decide to countercharge into my Stormwind because I have 5 wounds on me. So I'm not exactly sure about that. It's not good. It's not bad. I think it's probably just fine. But yeah. Anyway, then we have my king just staring down. It looks like no one's fighting me because I killed that ASB. And these guys, yeah, countercharge into my palace guard, go like, how did you miss, right? And finally, we have the Stone Priest going into my Wizard, hoping to get it. I don't even know how lucky that is. Do they hit on a 4 like the ASB, or is it on a 5? Anyway, it's a little bit of a Wizard slap fight over there. And the Greater Earth Elemental going into the Draken Riders. Yeah, again, this is the big worry for me. The rest of them, I think, are pretty just on par. Like, this does nothing. This probably does a lot. This might kill me, and then this is along with this. But this one is the real swingy one, right? Like, that could be a game opener. But anyway, moving on to... Well, not shooting, so instead we're just going to get a end-of-turn combat shot, and nothing happens. It's pretty bad. My opponent rolls okay against this unit. It looks like... Oh, is this a great picture? No, here we go. Here's the... I don't know. They definitely do wounds here. I just don't have a wound dial out. I don't know what happened here. Maybe I have it literally in my hand. But anyway, they manage a couple of wounds here and there. Yes. Okay, here we go. So this is the Stone Priest. It swings. It just misses the Wizard, and I'm like, okay, so I'm free to do what I want. Over here, we get into the combat, and manages 5 wounds, so does disorder them, but doesn't get a lucky waiver, which is great for me. Over here, we've got these guys in my side. I'm already at 6 wounds again, and does 1 wound, and gets a waiver. So I guess that's actually pretty lucky. It's a 7. So, but it's not terribly lucky. We've got this combat here. Bam! Gets another 2 wounds in a second boxcar. So I have double wand once. My opponent has boxcarred me twice in this game. But still, that just kind of happens. And in case you're wondering, yeah, they're not a -20 or anything like that. So they're out of here. And this was obviously the second roll. The first roll was an 11, in case you're wondering. And over here, yeah, these guys go into me, and they manage 6 wounds. So they do literally treble my wounds, but it's not enough to do anything, or not enough to waiver me. So this is the end of turn shot. My opponent did get a bit of luck there with the cav, but I'm not sure it's enough to deal with what the elves already have going. So we're going to move into turn 5. So turn 5 elves. Let's see if we can clean these little stunties up. Excuse me. First off, we have this unit here just continuing their endless war against these little dwarves. These guys who were wavered, they disengage. So I can disengage just slightly over here. Because my opponent did not combo charge me, I'm allowed. So I disengage a little bit just so I can shoot into this unit, which is the plan with my lightning bolt. I have lightning bolt 8 right there. This lightning bolt, not terribly useful, so I just run it. It's not going to be able to shoot anything because I have the Elven King go into the wounded Stone Priest, because I thought about doing the wizard fight for a second, but after this got wavered, this got killed, I was like, okay, I have to keep playing. I have to keep playing at full capacity, or at least whatever I do. So we go for those. We have an easy flank charge here into the shield breakers. With the that we're fighting the Palace Guard. So the Palace Guard disengage, can see this unit, pivot, can hit them without it being a problem, and get into that combat. And then we have these guys get into the flank. So that is going to be that. The Draken Riders get a counter charge into the Greater Earth Elemental. It is, again, at like 4 wounds, something like that. So it's at a decent number, and I have 18 attacks on 3s with Elite and 4s to wound, so I might be able to do something. And Argus just back here with her pot, just hanging out, throwing out the Inspires. So that's going to be that. Let's see how it goes. First off, I get a boxcar, so, you know, it's all coming together. It's all coming together here. And I pop right through that unit. These guys pop their unit each. You can see that the sharpshooters back here are also dead. That is because with my lightning bolt 8, I manage a couple wounds. I think I did 4 wounds, which is really good considering those are def 5. And I kill them off in one go. And these guys, I think they got them up to 4 wounds, so okay. And not sure what that shot is. Oh, this is the dwarf, and then so this is the end of elf turn 5. So dwarf turn 5, we have the steel juggernaut going into my, well, they're not wavered anymore, but and that's where Argus's mark went. So this is inspiring again. I have 7 wounds on me, so we'll see how that goes. And it goes about how you might expect. So this is the end of game shot. So first off, yeah, these guys did pass their, I either didn't waver them or they passed headstrong, charged into me, didn't kill. The Steel Juggernaut does manage to finish off this unit of Silver Breeze. They're gone, and that is it. My opponent, the Elven King, killed off the Stone Priest. These guys killed off the Greater Earth Elemental, which was actually a pretty, yeah, it had 4 wounds on it already, but still, it's a dash 19. I think this combat with the Draken Riders, I actually rolled insane. I think I missed like twice total out of 18 dice, and it was like, oh no. So I roll right through them. And my opponent just calls it there at the end of 5. So as you can see, I have unit strength. I have unit strength 4, 3, and then I might have unit strength 3 there as well. So I think I have 10 unit strength in the bubble with my opponent's 1. So it's a pretty easy win for me. I don't have too much to do. My opponent can turn with the Steel Juggernaut, right, like this, to face towards me. The only thing I can do is send the horde of Spearmen in after I do something with the, I'd probably have to turn these guys like around and just walk them over here, but still this might just one-shot that, or I could even dual charge because my Draken Riders are facing this way, so yeah, I can probably get both these guys in here and just obliterate that last unit, literally just back off here. I am disordered. That unit's at 4. Would it be, no, it depends. If this king is within 18 inches here, I might just want to charge the king in and then charge these guys in as well. But otherwise, you know, maybe just fire some lightning bolts since I have lightning bolt 13, and this one can get to the edge of the hill here to see. So anyway, that's going to be the game. I hope you guys liked it, and until next time, bye.